Hello, this is Buttercup, and welcome to the 4th episode of my Halo Wars Unit Briefing series. At the end of the last episode, I put to a vote which Covenant leader we would be covering in this episode. And you, the viewers, voted between the Arbiter, the Brute Chieftain, and the Prophet of Regret. And after much arbitration, we finally have a winner. To most Halo fans, the title of Arbiter is that bestowed upon the elite Thel 'Vadam, Master Chief's companion in most of Halo 3. It was at this time in the Halo universe that the title of Arbiter was bestowed upon disgraced elites, who would then embark on suicidal missions in order to regain their honor. However, such was not always the case, as is expressly seen in Halo Wars Arbiter, Ripa Morimi. Rather than a renounced leader of the Great Schism, this Arbiter appears in Halo Wars as a leading general of the Great Journey. The presence of a commanding leader is often a necessity in the theater of war, and the Arbiter fills this role perfectly. As with his other leader counterparts, the Arbiter is only available to the Covenant faction, and despite the designation of leader, behaves much like an infantry unit. An Arbiter will be provided as soon as your first temple is built, and subsequent training requires a tech level of 1. Replacing an Arbiter will cost you 400 resources, and a free population space. Despite behaving much like an infantry unit, Covenant leaders are unable to occupy garrisons. However, they can make special use of the gravity lift, able to quickly teleport qualified units to their location. If the temple is your first building queued as soon as the game starts, Covenant leaders such as the Arbiter can make their appearance as early as 30 seconds into the game. In doing so, the presence of an Arbiter makes an instant impact on the battlefield, capable of fulfilling a lot of early game roles, such as acquiring hooks, clearing out expansion bases, or harassing your enemy early on. Despite how rapidly his appearance can be made, the Arbiter is quite a hefty unit, even in his weakest state. As with other leader units, the Arbiter is capable of picking up supply crates at an accelerated rate. This greatly helps Covenant players keep up with the UNSC in the early game supply grab, utilizing much more than just a fragile Ghost Scout unit. Alternatively, the Arbiter can get straight to work, clearing out protected hooks or rebel bases for their teammates. Doing so is a great way of building veteracy on your leader unit, which could come in handy in the middle to late game. However, in its weakest state, the Arbiter won't be fighting off armies anytime soon. And Covenant leaders sport a number of upgrades exceeding that of the typical unit. Each Covenant leader comes equipped with 6 upgrades, which are divided into 2 categories, 3 passive upgrades and 3 active upgrades, which directly affect the leader's Y ability. It is through the use of these upgrades that you can transform your Arbiter from the first unit on the field to a one-man army. The first of the Arbiter's passive upgrades is Fiendish Return, available at Tech Level 1 at a cost of 400 resources. Researching this ability immediately upgrades the Arbiter's damage output, as well as provides a small amount of damage reflection to all incoming damage. Typically the first upgrade researched by Arbiters, Fiendish Return allows an Arbiter to immediately go on the offensive with their increased damage output. Any units attempting to fight off this Arbiter will receive a small amount of reflected damage, often turning a match in the Arbiter's favor. Next up is Vicious Blades, available at Tech Level 2 at a cost of 600 resources. This upgrade can easily be considered Fiendish Return 2.0, further increasing the Arbiter's health, passive damage output, and reflected damage. A Vicious Blades Arbiter finds himself a lot more capable of taking on some of the tankier units in the game, and the reflected damage helps immensely in one-on-one leader fights, namely against the Brute Chieftain or Prophet of Regret of an equal tech level. The Arbiter's final passive upgrade is Ghastly Vision, available at Tech Level 3 at a cost of 900 resources. In addition to boosting the Arbiter's health and damage, Ghastly Vision provides the unique ability of camouflage, allowing the Arbiter to go unseen from his enemies. This final passive upgrade makes the Arbiter great at scouting, and even greater at initiating sneak attacks. Despite their elevated health and level of strength, Covenant leaders often do very little in their passive state, and it is through the use of their Y ability that they are capable of accomplishing so much more. The Arbiter's first Y ability upgrade is Defiant Rage, available at Tech Level 1 for 300 supplies. This ability causes each unit killed by a Raging Arbiter to provide a small amount of health proportional to the killed unit's maximum health. This makes Defiant Rage a great way of mitigating incoming damage and reducing the need for constant heals from your UNSC teammate or your engineers. Next up is Spiteful Rage, available at Tech Level 2 at a cost of 500 resources. Arguably the most important of the Arbiter's raging upgrades, Spiteful Rage, also known as Cheap Rage by many players, reduces the amount of resources required by each lunge of a raging Arbiter. Doing so allows an Arbiter to remain in rage mode for a significantly longer time, capable of doing much more damage with significantly less resources in pocket. Reducing the overall cost of rage allows an Arbiter to build his economy much more quickly and requires less clicked supplies from a teammate. This can also allow the Arbiter to stay in rage mode for an extended period of time, allowing him to traverse the battlefield much more quickly and take out enemies at a fraction of the cost. The Arbiter's final upgrade is Blinding Rage, available at Tech Level 3 at a cost of 700 supplies. Typically the last upgrade researched by an Arbiter, Blinding Rage increases the health and damage output of all friendly units within a generous radius. Units buffed by this ability are found to be cloaked in a red, hazy aura. While utilizing a Covenant Leader's Y ability, players are unable to micro any of their other nearby units. Thus, Blinding Rage provides a nice buff to any units who might be nearby, or any other units that might be teleported in via the gravity lift. As there is no limit to the amount of units who can receive the Blinding Rage buff, it is very important for the Arbiter to keep in the midst of all of his teammates' units. Doing so allows the greatest number of friendly units to receive the buff from the Arbiter, thereby maximizing damage output from you and your teammates. The Arbiter proves to be a very powerful unit at any point in its tech level progression. It is through a combination of these 6 tech level upgrades, 3 levels of Veteracy, and a generous amount of Rage Micro that an Arbiter can be transformed into a one-man killing machine. In a metagame that consists of massive armies of maximum population Scorpion tanks colliding with one another, it is often the presence of a raging Arbiter that can turn the tide in battle. And it is for this reason that the Arbiter has generously earned the title of the best Covenant leader. And there you have it, the illustrious Covenant leader known as the Arbiter. Despite being such a powerhouse, controlling an Arbiter properly is not as easy as it seems. An Arbiter can be a very time and resource expensive investment and should always be kept a close eye on. Be aware of air units such as Banshees, which can often cause your Arbiter to be clipped and glitched to his death, and always plan escape routes appropriately for disruption bombs, which could spell the end of your Arbiter. However, despite these relatively minor shortcomings, the Arbiter more than enough makes up for it with his raw, unchecked power and blinding aggression. Given his blinding speed and damage output, the Arbiter proves to be a perfect counter against Warthog rushes with his raging ability. And even in the late game, that raging ability works extremely well against power turret tanks, provided you have the correct upgrades and good micro skill. Given the current state of the metagame, the Arbiter brings a lot more to the table in dealing with UNSC units than the Brute Chieftain or the Prophet of Regret. And it is for this reason that the Arbiter has earned the title as the high-level leader of choice. So whether you're raging down a group of Gosshogs, ripping power turret tanks into scrap metal, or porting in a group of suicide grunts to cheese an enemy base, your opponent's rage will know no bounds, thanks to the Covenant leader, known as the Arbiter. Thanks for watching. This has been Buttercup. I will be taking an indefinite break from the Halo Wars unit briefing series to pursue some other content on my channel. While I may revisit this series at a later time and date, don't get your hopes up. But that's no reason to stop playing Halo Wars, and as always, until then, I will see you on the battlefield.